Hey class, today this video is going to go over chapter 4 for our C# class. About chapter 4, we're going to talk about the objects and the class, which is the main concept for you to learn for the object-oriented programming in the futures. Object-oriented programming. The program we have been creating in the past, you create different functions and with the main functions. So what happened is we coded the procedure methods, which each function belong to the main function in the same programs. So every time you finish this program, the function ends as well. So a lot of times those functions is not reusable. So now the fast development in the real world right now. So the main method we are using called object-oriented programming. What it does is you create a class. Inside that class, it has different variable you need, different function you need, different calculation you need, and put it in isolated class. And then in the future, if you need to do this kind of the task, you can just create an object based on the class we create previously, and then you don't need to spend time to recreate the whole thing again, and then the program can be quickly created. So object-oriented programming, it's now currently using much more than regular, the procedure programmings. And the object you create based on a class, they are inside include the data, include the functions, so you can process and manipulate with the data. All the data in the object we call it attributes. Regular program we call it as variables. Attributes to save the data, just like variables, and some of them are the functions. Okay. And the procedure we use is function. We call it as methods in object-oriented programming. So in this, you can see this is the UML diagrams. Okay, UML diagram. It's always have the three sections. First section is the name of your class. Okay. Second is all the data attributes. Third one is all the methods you're gonna create, which can be interacted between the functions and the data. All right, so that's three different sections in the UML diagrams. So the purpose of the create the objects, those functions will be the only one can directly access the data inside your class. All the object outside the class, if they want to retrieve the data, modify the data, they have to go through the local functions, which are those local ones. Of course, this is just the picture for you to see the ideas of it. Okay, object-oriented programming, we usually call it OOP. Okay, and the benefit out of it is the reusability of the whole objects. Okay, so like for example, now currently all the mobile programmings, they are object-oriented programming. So when you are creating the app, you don't need to recreate the jumping. You don't need to recreate the floating. All those you can pretty much. You don't need to create a button. Some of them now, those fancy ones, they even have 3D buildings, oceans, mountains. Already come with it. You can just code it and use it, change the different properties, change the color and change your stuff. If you have a previous training of Visual Basics, those are object-oriented programming as well, because all the buttons, text files, and the list, you don't need to recreate it. It's already come with the standard library for you to use. Okay. And the object cannot be a standalone program. The object is like the library you create. So you need to the class you create. So and then you in the other programs you borrow. You create an object based on the class. for you to be able to reuse all the data and the functions. All right. So like for example, a quick example, if you want to create a clock, okay, there are many different clock out there. The clock, so you not necessarily every time you rewrite all those, second, minute, and hours, and all the functionality of increments per seconds and stuff like that. So you can create a class which we can name it somewhere like class clock, and then in the future, it doesn't matter what type of clock you're creating, you can just borrow it, right? So like for this example, when you try to create a class for your clock, okay, what you need to think about, what kind of components you need first. First, you need the time as a variables, okay, regular time, and then you need to have, if usually a lot of clock they have, you can set a long time, standard time, a long time, and they have different function, a long on, a long off, okay, and now you have some to mechanism for your clock. You need to have increment of every seconds and any minutes and any hours, and those supposed to be created. And you can see here the time it can be set up by the user's owner of the clock. Along is the same thing, on and off is the same thing. So those method we can set it as the public. But the increment of the second, minutes, and hours, you do not want the user to mess with it. So we said those are privates. So you will not gonna change them. Some of the alarms, it could be optional. Okay, if you have multiple sounds inside settings. So now the programmer, when you try to create a class, you kind of create, determine what kind of variable you need, just like a previous page, and what kind of method you need to be able to get the object class to work properly. Okay. So every time when you specify, you need to have a different data type for the variables, and your method, it does specific things for your class. Okay. So a class is like a blueprint. Okay. And the object is created based on it. That's most of the example we say. So the class standalone doesn't work. The class doesn't work. It doesn't have main function in there, but it's like a blueprint. So every time you need to use something, perform the task, you can create an object based on the class, and then you can use it in your current program you need. All right. So like for example, if you create a class called inset in this case. Okay, so now based on inset, you have many different type inset. Like a butterfly is kind, mosquito is one, bumblebee is kind. They have all different type of insets. So what you can do is you create an inset class with all the characteristic data you need. And now when you try to create butterfly, you can just create based on inset butterfly equal to new inset, something like that. So that's how you create a class. Okay. And the class, from the previous chapter, you see a string, right? The string as a data type. Actually, string, it is a class we mentioned last time. So what it does is, we create a string of the CD name, and we initialize with the whatever CD you put it in there, just like that. Okay. So the class come with all the function we talk about, those methods. Okay, like for example, string class already come with certain properties for you to use, like a length, which is how many characters in your strings. You can just use the string name dot length. It will return it to you exactly the number of the characters in there. So and each different variable based on the string we create, though are different, we call it different instance. Okay, instance of the class, string class. So each of them is independent. You see the person have the name, pets has name, favorite color has different names. All right, they all create based on the same class. They are independently different objects. So when you create, it pretty much you create based on the same class. Every one you reserve, like the person based on the string class. what computer does, they reserve for location on your memories, and when you try to initialize it, it put the data into these locations. Same thing as the pad, same thing as the color. So you can see each of the different string, different instance, they have different address on the memory. So that's why we say they are individually different, okay, independently different. Each instance of the class string contains a different data, okay, but they have the same design. They have the same number, same variables, same constructor you're gonna learn later, and the same methods you're gonna have if they're based on the same class. But the thing is, the data inside is different, okay? This is the first part of the videos of chapter 4. We're gonna continue post it to make the video shorter so you can easier to follow, okay? Finish the part 1. The part 2 will be posted soon. Thank you.